Live streaming.
There we go. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be starting in just a second. As usual, I need to share the links so that everybody can join us who may want to. We do, in fact, have a guest, as you may or may not have seen on Facebook, and I do believe that I mentioned it 2 weeks ago, which is the last time we had a show. If I didn't, surprise, we have a guest.
Yay! We don't have to jangle keys.
Yes. Here we go. Well, again, it's like I tell people, go ahead and look on Facebook. I link all this stuff so they know. So I don't have that much sympathy if they don't realize what's going on.
I don't know. I pretty much can never tell what's going on.
Well, yeah, actually, in general, that works easier.
Yeah.
I write things, I send it to my editor when she tells me to.
I'm sure she appreciates that relationship.
She also appreciates that I pay her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that too. Funny thing, people like to get paid for the work they do.
It's weird. I don't get it.
Mysteries of life.
For
Except
real.
for authors. Authors rarely get paid.
Yes, but you'd like to get paid.
Yeah.
Hell, you say. I am a mercenary bastard. I'm doing this for money.
Nothing wrong with being a little mercenary. When I talk to employers, it's like, look, I'm pretty mercenary about working. If you're gonna pay me, there are things I won't do, but I'll do quite a lot for the money, as long as it's mostly legal.
Legal somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's only really illegal if they catch you.
Yeah, then it's like Schrodinger's crime.
Exactly.
Before you're convicted, it's Schrodinger's crime.
Okay, so I've got the links up. I've got at least one person appearing to be watching us, so it's probably time we can get this party started. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I'm Kevin Mears, demonologist, paranormal investigator, and the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I am joined by my co-host,
Brian McKinley, author and godfather of vampire thrillers.
and we are joined by a guest tonight, which is John G Hartness. He is an author I'm actually particularly fond of, and as is my tradition, partly because I think it's always better, and partly because I love putting people on the spot. John, why don't you introduce yourself instead of me doing it?
Sure. I'm John Hartness. I am the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books. We're an independent press based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am also the author of multiple urban fantasy and fantasy series, most notably the Black Knight Chronicles, which is a light urban fantasy series, the Bubba the Monster Hunter books, which is cryptozoological horror comedy, and the Quincy Harker Demon Hunter series of novels and novellas, which is darker urban fantasy. I'm also a cast member of the Authors and Dragons live play podcast, which just celebrated our 5th anniversary. So if you'd like to see other comedy fantasy authors play Dungeons and Dragons and really be terrible at it, check us out.
Yeah, Brian and I were just saying before the show, we both have to check this out. It sounds entirely like too much fun, since as our listeners all know, we're both gamers.
Yeah, it's rated NSFA, not safe for anyone.
I like the for anyone. So I keep meaning to check out the other books that you've written, particularly the Bubba the Monster Hunter sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does.
It's
Great title.
It's a lot of fun to write. I basically, I'm a big redneck. I'm a big old fat boy with a big long ponytail and tattoos and pickup truck and all that. So I wanted to write about somebody like me. And then I spin it on its head and add monsters.
So you mean you don't go hunting cryptids when you're on your days off?
Well, that's the thing about owning your own business. It means that there's only 7 days in your work week. I don't get days off.
Point.
And no, because if those things exist, I'm leaving them the hell alone.
Smart.
Yeah, that's a pretty good logic, I think.
I'm not very pretty, but I'm not a moron.
I've never 20 years of hunting demons. I've never gone looking for a cryptid. Unfortunately, I've always kind of wanted to.
Well, the downside. The worst thing about hunting monsters?
What?
Finding one.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
I walked right into that.
Yes.
And I have to, years of hunting demons. It's also the worst thing about hunting them too.
Yeah.
It's like, really, no, first time anyone ever asks me, because one of the most common questions I get is, how do I do what you do? And the first thing I usually say to them is, you really don't want to. You haven't thought this through properly.
Yeah, don't. That's what I tell people about being a writer.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's something you writers have in common, I think.
Same here.
I was doing a panel one time at a convention in Tennessee, and it was one of those, what would you do if panels. And we're talking, there's a string of us on the panel. It's me and James Tuck, who's a great writer and a good friend of mine, Denny Upkins, who's one of the funniest people you could ever meet, and I don't remember the fourth guy. That was the only convention I've ever done with him. So, dude, who I'm about to mock horrifically, I apologize for not remembering who you are so I can call you out and mock you specifically. But we're sitting there, and this guy in the back row raises his hand when it's time for the Q&A. And we look back, and I'm like, I can't tell if he's cosplaying Harry Dresden or if he's cosplaying Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing sleeping with Harry Dresden. But it's one of those. And he's like, what do you do if you think your next door neighbors are vampires? And we take a second, and we look up and down the row, and we realize that this man is 100% sincere.
Oh, yeah, I can believe that.
He thinks that his next door neighbors are vampires. Now, I don't remember, dude that I don't remember his name, don't know him at all. But I've known James Tuck since I got into this business, and we've come to know Denny pretty well over the course of the weekend. We know that we are inveterate smartasses. So we're going to screw with this guy.
Oh, God, this should be good.
So Denny starts off, and he's like, well, let's start with stitches. Snitches get stitches, so you leave them the hell alone. And I'm like, I'd move. And Tuck's like, casserole. Blood pudding, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And then homeboy down at the end trumps us all. Because he goes into this long explanation. He says, so my alternate form, my totem animal, is the banana slug. So I can secrete horrific, odorous substances from my skin. So I would make sure that I was too foul for them to want to eat. I was like,
I think that's the first I've ever heard of a totem animal as a banana slug.
I know, right?
Everybody picks wolves or snakes or something like that.
Nah, he knew his brand.
Yeah.
He looked like a dude who would have a banana slug for a totem animal. But yeah, homeboy did not know exactly what to do with our advice. Yeah, you get some winners in this business.
I like to troll various websites, and you'll see questions like that sometimes. My personal favorite is always how do I know if I'm a vampire? And being a hard folklorist kind of guy, I usually answer. I'm usually a little sarcastic, and it's like, okay, the first thing you're going to do is check where you woke up this morning. Did you wake up in a coffin, or did you wake up in a bed?
I can give them the email address for Bram Stoker's great-great-grandnephew.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Staker. He's a friend of ours as well.
We've had him on the
Let's
show.
have Dacre check him out. We've got like the bloodline source. That'd be kind of funny. Just watching Dacre's reaction if we start sending all of these morons to him.
Oh, no.
Because he's such a nice guy.
He really is.
He's such a wonderful human. And those are the people that are the best to mess with.
This is true. Of course, in my experience, most of them have just read too much Anne Rice.
Just for the record, this is what's in the red Solo cup.
We don't actually have any video.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was deliberate. I guess it's just not working.
Okay. Well, then there's Pepsi.
Oh, okay. Hey, Soda Wars, I got Coke here.
Yeah.
I got Mountain Dew.
That's my wake-up drink.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Breakfast of Champions.
Although I want to point out that I think I win because specifically I've got Mexican Coke, so I've got the actual cane sugar.
Mm.
They started doing the cane sugar Pepsi, and I don't like it as much as the fake sugar. I need chemicals, apparently.
You get used to them. Your body starts needing it after a while.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were doing cane sugar Pepsi. I may have to try that.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, they have like a Mountain Dew throwback.
And that stuff's weird. Mountain Dew with natural substances is very strange.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can still clean your toilet and your engine block with it. But
yeah, no doubt. But it is definitely a concept there. It's like, wait, it's Mountain Dew with natural sugar.
So, Brian, what do you write?
I write novels about, a society of vampires that are unknown to humans, but are kind of quietly pulling the strings behind all of the vast corporations and political movements and things like that.
Vampire Illuminati.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Cool.
So,
I have to admit, usually when I'm doing one of these, I go research everybody I'm talking to. But I just got a big order of magic cards in earlier today, so
priorities.
Right. I was being a giant nerd.
Hey, no argument from here. I will point out that I decided that buying endless role-playing books was enough crack for me, so I got out of the Magic business, the Gathering business. But literally on the other side of my laptop is my case for my actual magic tricks.
Yeah, he does stage magic.
Oh wow!
So it's like, no, you're among nerds here.
I figured, that's my people.
Yeah. We tend to congregate together, and it's like, I remember when I was first I had thought about having you on the show before. Then I was like, I should just see about reaching out to him. So let's see if he's on Facebook. And it's like, gee, we know a lot of people in common, most of whom have been on the show before.
Yeah.
So tell us about the. Kevin has told me a little about it, but tell us about the Quincy Harker series.
Okay. It all started. So it's all John Constantine's fault.
Nice.
I am a huge fan of the comic book Hellblazer.
It's a good comic.
Particularly the early to mid 90s Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon, Glenn Fabry run. That to me was some of the best dark fantasy comics that were ever done. And Ennis, if you've watched The Boys, you know that Ennis is poetic in his profanity. So I saw a preview a few years back of an upcoming Constantine TV show on NBC.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, that's going to be terrible because you can't say fuck on NBC. And you can't write John Constantine without him being able to say fuck. And I was right. The show was bad. The actor, Matt Ryan, was brilliant, and
Yeah.
actually still is brilliant as John Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow. But the show wasn't good. It was too watered down. So I felt like I needed to quell my fury. I needed to write my homage to the Constantine I loved. And I thought, okay, well, we'll figure out, we'll set a magic slinging asshole in the South. Hey, didn't Jonathan Harker have a kid? So I looked it up and I was like, yeah, he did. So Quincy Harker started off as a single novella. I was on another panel early this week where we were talking about writing series, and I said that I've never gone into a series knowing that I was writing a series. It's always been, I wrote a book, and when people bought it, I decided to write more of those books. So that's what happened with Quincy Harker. I wrote a novella, people liked it, they bought it. The North Carolina Speculative Fiction Foundation was kind enough to give me an award for it. And I kept writing it. And he is a foul-mouthed, fire-slinging, demon-hunting wizard in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he still hangs out with Dracula.
Yes, his uncle.
Uncle Luke. And for various reasons, which I have explained as we've gone on in the series, some of Dracula's magic passed on because Dracula's wives chewed on Jonathan Harker, and Dracula chewed on Mina Murray, and then Mina Murray and Jonathan Harker made a little Quincy. So vampires chewing on both your parents jacks up your DNA.
Always made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's science, man, I'm telling you.
Exactly.
So I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's my best-selling series. It's darker urban fantasy. The stuff I had done before that was a lot lighter. The Black Knight Chronicles is more like Buffy, and then Bubba is more like Ash versus the Evil Dead, or Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah.
So this was a chance to go darker, and it's resonated with audiences and allowed me to play with some different stuff. And I've had to learn a lot of the names of Lords of Hell.
Yeah, it's one of the things I like about your series. It's like, yeah, you've done some homework there. I like people that do.
I try to do a little research, but then I'll sit on a panel or I'll talk to somebody like Richard Cadre, and then I feel like I've never even read a book because the level of research that he does is breathtaking.
See, for me, it's a little easier because 9 times out of 10, if I'm on a case and something tells me its name, it's lying to me.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, I did a case many years ago where the demon in the house told the woman its name was Amun. And if you know anything about Egyptian mythology, Amun is a major god.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I do not have a house haunted by the Egyptian god of secrets. He's got better things to do with his day.
He's got better places to be.
What was that, Brian?
I said he's got better places to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's true across the board. It's like, no, usually it's not. It drives me crazy with the deliverance ministers of, oh, I cast out Satan. It's like, no, you didn't. Satan has better things to do with the day than just come possess the cute little girl down the street.
For real. It's the theological aspects of all of what I write have always been fun. I grew up in the South, in a small rural community, so I'm working through some stuff as far as organized religion goes. And I have a niece who is a Presbyterian minister. So she and I have plenty of conversations back and forth. So it's been a lot of fun to add in the different archangels for various things and use them. Like, Michael's an asshole. The Archangel Michael's just a prick. I've written him in a couple of different things, and I can't write him as anything but a douche.
That's a funny thing, though, because I have always resonated with Michael, and the way you depict him in Quincy is one of my favorite depictions, just because I like the idea of him as being a soldier with PTSD.
Yeah, a little bit. Because he's the dude. He's the dude leading the charge. Big flaming sword, all that shit. The war in heaven would have been essentially the Civil War. It would have been brother against brother. Because they all came from the same place.
Yeah.
Same mystical DNA. So, yeah, that's going to mess you up.
No, it makes sense. And reading it at first, I was like, oh, it's another book where Michael's an asshole, which is a beef of mine. And then it's like, oh, wait, this actually makes sense. It's not just an asshole to be an asshole. There's trauma there.
Yeah. Having any character be an asshole just to be an asshole isn't fun. It's not fun to write. It's not fun for your audience to read. Having a bad guy or a jerk be justified in their head for their own actions is much more interesting. It gives you a lot more places to go. So I try to always have my villains or even my unlikable protagonists have a good reason to them that they do what they do.
Yeah.
No, which is how, psychology. People are generally not evil just to be evil.
That makes for better fiction.
Yeah,
it does. And yes, there are sociopaths in the world. There are people who just don't have any kind of moral compass. But they're few and far between. It's much more common for someone to think that what they're doing is the correct thing. And they'll also be way more committed to it. Because we've all done stuff that, okay, I'll go do this thing, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just stop. And, maybe that thing is blowing up the world. But if you kind of don't care, then it's easier to stop you. But if it's very, very important that you blow up the world, because it's the only way to reset the clock and make a better world out of the ashes, don't know who's going to be there to make it, but whatever. That's a tomorrow problem.
Yeah.
Then your character's committed to their course of action.
So that's the other thing I'd say as well, though, is even if you look at real world sociopaths, even they have a reason why they do what they do. I mean, there's about 1% of the population is on the antisocial personality disorder spectrum, for lack of a better word for it. They're psychopaths or sociopaths or something like that. But the reality is the majority of those people aren't criminals.
No,
they're scientists, they're politicians, they're business CEOs. They're the ones that actually commit violent acts usually do. I mean, if nothing else, they're actual clinical sadists that derive, and they're torturing people because they derive pleasure from torturing people. They're not just doing it because I'm going to torture people because that's what I do, or for the evil.
They've gone into publishing. Because then you can torture people and they'll pay you a part of their money for it. I've been doing a lot of editing these past couple of weeks on other people's manuscripts, so I've been doing a lot of torturing people.
Nice.
Well, you two are both writers, and I think there's a degree of sadism there too, because as Joss Whedon, I think, put it perfectly about when writing Buffy, he always said, Buffy happy, show bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if there's anything a writer likes more than torturing their characters, it's torturing their readers.
Oh, no doubt.
The best emails you get are the hate mails from someone because of something you did to a character. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. All right, you were emotionally invested. I win.
Yeah. Unless you're in a situation like Misery.
Fortunately, one, I'm a lot bigger than Paul Sheldon would have been. And two, I don't think I have those kind of fans. I really hope not. Funny though, that's a little bit of the premise of a book I'm working on.
Oh, nice.
Trying my hand at a non-supernatural thriller that has some elements of misery to it.
That should be interesting, actually.
It's turning out to be fun to write. When writing things in the realish world, I forget how many crutches I have when I can just say, "Oh, it's magic." Shut up.
It's magic. I don't have to explain it.
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
It's like, oh, it also just reminds me of the old axiom. They always say, "Truth is stranger than fiction," and the reason why truth is stranger than fiction is fiction has to be logically consistent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I say that to authors all the time. When we're going through, I was working on one of the series we published is called the Cold Stone Case Files. It's by Jason Gilbert, and it's a police procedural series about a wolfman. And his best friend is an FBI agent, and they are working a long-term case. So I'm working on his edits on one of the books, and I'm like, and one of the notes is, okay, look, I know this is not how it really works in the really real world, but it's how it works on SVU and all of the TV shows. So just do it this way because it's what people are going to think about how it really works. He's like, oh, that makes my head hurt. I'm like, yeah, your fiction doesn't have to match reality. It has to match the fiction that way more people have seen. Because a lot more people have seen CSI than have ever actually tested DNA on a crime scene.
Yeah.
Which is also, of course, why actual CSI, I believe John French is a mutual friend of ours as well, hate shows like CSI.
Oh, yeah. Another one of my authors, Darren Kennedy, is a physician by day. You want to get him going? Get him going.
Oh, I bet.
Get him going on Arrow sometime. About all of the times that Oliver Queen should have been dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've just been through EMT training once years ago, and I'll watch anything with medical in it. It's like, really?
Yeah.
And I don't have half the knowledge I'm sure he does.
Oh, yeah. Same. I find I don't actually have to know anything. I just know people who know things.
Yeah.
No.
It helps. And you know this, I know this, pretty much everyone listening knows this. There's also the reality that if you watch anything based on what you actually do, you're gonna find things to complain about.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, like writers not wasting incredible amounts of time actually writing all the time.
Or writers selling one book and becoming millionaires.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Or writers picking up a phone and calling their publisher in New York. I'm like, nah, kid. You call your agent, and then maybe next week your agent gets in touch with your publisher and calls your ass back. But you've got 3 levels of editorial to get through before you get to the person who's writing the checks.
Yeah.
You don't just... And agents dropping by to check on the manuscript. Like,
They've
Really?
got better things to do.
Yeah. They got people's careers to run and a lot more of them. Yeah.
Or, case in point, my field of work. You want to know what the average ghost hunter really does with their night? Imagine sitting in a cemetery in the dark without any lights on, because that might mess up what you can see, your night vision and what you can see, waiting for something to happen that even deep down probably isn't going to happen. That's my night job, as it were. It's not good television or movie.
Sounds a lot like a whole bunch of my Friday nights in high school. I was sitting in a cemetery hoping something was going to happen, and I was pretty sure it wasn't going to happen, and it sure didn't.
Well, again, let's face it. If they were completely realistic with any of these things, nobody'd watch it. Well, people like you'd probably be interested, at least to a point, in watching something about what being a writer is actually like. I'd be.
Oh God, no.
No.
God, no. I know what it's actually like. I suffer through it every day. I don't want to watch it too.
Exactly. It'd be the worst thing ever.
Well, let me rephrase. You would relate to it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's me. I would relate to. I might watch an episode of what I actually do, but eventually it's like, okay, this is boring. Where's the next episode of Supernatural?
Mm-hmm. Man,
where's anything else? And people who can't relate to it are going to be, this isn't the way it is. And start spouting off the
more for the sales of rock salt in the United States in the last 10 blizzards.
Unfortunately, and yes, I've been asked, no, rock salt doesn't work nearly as well as in Supernatural.
Well, that's good, because it's a lot harder to load a damn shotgun shell with rock salt than they make it look, too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but I would have assumed so.
It ain't the easiest thing in the world. Better just to buy birdshot.
But I'll say the one that I've seen come up from the one I've seen come up in relation to the show that actually has some truth in it. There's the meme of Gordon Ramsay saying, "This beef is so salty, Sam and Dean are trying to hunt demons with it." And I actually, sadly, he's since passed, but I had a very good friend who was an exorcist, and yeah, there's some truth to that. Not so much the trying to cast a demon out by making the meat salted meat, but using they'll make sometimes exorcists will mix blessed salt or holy water into a drink and then try and get them to drink it to see if they're possessed.
There's a logic to that.
Yeah.
Just going back to the less scientific times, when anybody who had any type of mental illness was often considered to be possessed by demons. If you make somebody drink a lot of salt water, they're probably going to vomit.
True.
And 500 years ago, somebody barfing could quite possibly be considered to be expelling an evil spirit. So the evolution of that idea makes sense.
Granted, in our case, I know with Father Joe in particular, he was less looking for somebody vomiting it up and more throwing it across the room and complaining about the holy water they couldn't have known was there.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back in the
because you're absolutely right. If you give somebody enough salt water, they're going to vomit.
And a lot of people get called in to do things and exercise things, and they need to make something happen so they'll get paid. And if you can make somebody puke, hey, we cast out our demon. I'm done. If one comes back, that's your problem.
Or you give a limited time off or double your money back.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, those types of investigators, and I'm very, very proud to say I'm not one. I've never taken money from a client, and I wouldn't work with a priest who did. But there are definitely groups. I mean, there are groups that will charge you $1,000 just to talk to you on the freaking phone.
Oh yeah, I have a couple of friends who are paranormal investigators around here, and they're the same way. They don't get paid to do it. They want to help people.
Yeah.
But then I go to conventions all over the U.S., and I was like, yeah, you're in this for the check. So, yeah, just like everything.
Yeah. They're the people trying to help. They're the people that are just in it for the money. There's people are the combination of the two. I mean, I won't deny that I would certainly love to see this channel start making money or to get paid to do lectures once in a while, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that, particularly given it's like I'm still not going to charge client, the person who's asking for help. It's just, if you want to listen to me talk, I don't mind if you throw me a little money.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting paid to share your expertise.
Yeah.
And there's the kitty.
Yeah, I was about to ask. It sounds like the cat has joined the conversation.
Yes, Puck has decided that I was not paying enough attention to him. So now I have 15 pounds of cat in my arms as I sit at the desk. And my keyboard will be covered in black and white cat hair. If any of your viewers and listeners want to see a plethora of pictures of my cat, I have a Facebook group for John G Hartness books, and there are lots of cat pictures.
Sure, those go over well.
They do.
At the very least, I'm sure my fiance would be happy to see them.
Some of the best engagement I get on social media is when I ask fans to send me pictures of their pets, because everybody loves to post pet pictures. And I love to see them, I don't care.
No, they're adorable.
Kid. I mean, young humans are just strange looking, but cats and dogs are great.
It's always awkward because it's like you can't really tell the parents, like, hey, that's an awkward looking baby, but nobody's gonna say, oh, that's an awkward looking puppy or kitty.
Yeah. I mean, if you just tell everybody that their newborn looks like Winston Churchill, they'll stop being offended eventually. Because all newborns look either like Winston Churchill or a radish. And this is why I have a cat.
So, okay, we haven't talked much about it yet, so I have to ask the obvious question. In Authors and Dragons, what class do you play?
Oh, I'm a bard.
Oh, the bard.
For a couple of reasons. One, I was the last of the original party to join the group. Mm-hmm. So Rogue was taken. Actually, yeah. Rogue was taken, and I have a theater background. I did theatrical lighting and directing and production for 20 years before I switched over to doing completely writing. So it fell in logically, and it kind of works with the being a writer thing. Then when we switched over, we started the campaign in Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years in, we switched systems over to 5th edition. And that's when I realized that in 5e, the bard is overpowered as crap.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds of things. I am the primary spellcaster and healer for our party. I have weapons. I also cast Fireball. Because College of Lore and Magic Initiate.
Yep.
And I cast Fireball and Chromatic Orb and Acid Splash and Firebolt. I don't need to actually punch anything. Which is good, because I'm still a bard.
Yeah. We actually have a really cool listener I wanted to give a shout out to. So we've got a gentleman, or I don't know if it's a gentleman or a lady, so I don't want to assume, but Quantum Generator, who is watching from Los Alamos National Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico, Office of Scientific Research and Development.
Just for the record, Quantum Generator, if there's something that you're supposed to be doing for your job right now, please do that.
Yeah, with something that technical, please don't accidentally shift us into a parallel universe again. I get enough griping about the whole Mandela effect.
Yeah. Although, if you can switch us back to the correct spelling of Berenstein,
Yeah, I know. That was when I first heard about the whole thing. I was like, okay, this sounds ridiculous. And then they got to the Berenstain thing. And I'm like, wait, what the hell?
yeah.
Right. It's okay. He's on break. Somebody else is responsible for not accidentally blowing up the universe again.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Yeah, let's not be responsible for. I mean, I'm okay being responsible for a certain level of the decline of Western civilization. I am in fantasy publishing, but I don't want to wreck the whole thing.
No, we have the indoor plumbing. We don't want to lose that.
Dude, what homeowner woes, man. I have spent so much money redoing the plumbing in this 60-year-old house over the past couple of years. No, I just got it all working. I don't want to screw it up now.
It's always it's a good enough question for. I'll ask you first, and then I'll give my own take on it. If you could live in any time period, which one would you choose?
Right now.
Yes.
Right now. My cell phone that I carry in my pocket has more computer processing power than they used to put people on the moon. I can pay 40 cents and mail a letter to my friend 3,000 miles away. I am talking to you guys. I have no idea where you are.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I know it's like the 10th circle of hell, but we're in New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking to you guys in Jersey from Charlotte. When we do Authors and Dragons, we have people from Jersey, Atlanta, Charlotte, Texas, Seattle, and England.
Oh, wow.
All recording at the same time. I wouldn't want to live any place where I had to wipe my ass with corn cobs and, be afraid of bears eating me. I like being fat and lazy.
I wouldn't mind seeing the future though. If I could check out the future and see, if it gets any cooler.
As long as I get to come back and I get to write down a Powerball, 1 or 2 Powerball numbers.
There you go.
Exactly.
See, for me, I'm with the two of you. It's like now is if I have to pick any time up to now is great.
Yeah.
If I could go into the future, I'll take the future. Although I'd like to come back with some Powerball numbers of my own.
Have you watched The Umbrella Academy?
I keep meaning to, but not yet.
I have.
It's really good. So be careful about that wanting to go into the future thing.
But the reasons for me are, one, everything you just said is good, but it's like the medical advances we have right now, the sanitation we have right now. It's like, no, I don't want to go back to a time period when millions of people died of smallpox when I can live in a time where smallpox is something you read about in a history book.
I don't want to go back to a time when millions of people died of dysentery because they didn't know to wash things.
Yeah.
Or, I'm incredibly nearsighted.
Mm-hmm.
I currently have 2 tiny little circles of plastic on my eyeballs, making it so I can see perfectly. That's amazing.
Yeah. People underestimate constantly underestimate modern science in that question.
Yeah. People are all like, oh, I want to go back to the Middle Ages. I'm like, they threw their poop in the street.
Yep. See, I go back to the Middle Ages for a visit and, avoid walking in the middle of the street. Walking on the street where I'm going to get hit by the poop. But I'd go home.
Michael Crichton wrote a really good book about that.
Timeline.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite books.
I wonder where that is. I have a copy around here somewhere. Or had. I've seriously reduced the number of print books that aren't for sale in my home.
Okay, I'm
cases full of inventory. But
I'm actually impressed. So Quantum Generators offered a couple of points. One saying the black budget world is filled with real life fantasy, saying time travel is real, which in fairness I'm skeptical of. UFOs are real, but the part that I find fairly believable is the next bit, which is regarding UFOs, some are property we own and some are off-world devices. Most of what is witnessed is ours.
Yeah.
I can believe most of. I'm not going to say all, but I can definitely believe most of what we see is something the government owns.
Oh yeah, I would 100% believe that. The idea that we are the only intelligent life in the universe is just unbelievably arrogant.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and our intelligence is debatable.
I've never agreed with calling it arrogant because I don't see it as necessarily arrogant, but I think it's simply wrong. The odds are just overwhelmingly in favor of intelligent life being out there somewhere.
The math just doesn't work for us to be alone in the universe. I mean, do I believe that they are abducting Joe Bob from the cornfield and sticking rods in his butt? No. I believe Joe Bob has a hentai fetish and an Adam and Eve catalog that he didn't want his wife to know about. So he had some splaining to do when she found the sparkle butt plug in his underwear drawer. But
there's an episode of Penn and Teller's Bullshit where they went to a UFO convention and they brought a mysterious probing device to see if any of the abductees recognized it, and it was just a butt plug that they had spray painted silver. And lots of them seemed to think it was a genuine alien artifact.
Of course they did. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if intelligent life has, if more intelligent life has made it to this planet, they have taken one look at us and be like, nah, bro.
Nope.
Figure your own crap out. We'll come back later.
See, I've interviewed, because I've done YouTube for 5 years. I did 10 years of radio back in the 90s and 2000s. So I've interviewed a bunch of alien abductees and various experts on the subject. And for one, I've interviewed just about every type of paranormal person you can think of. You know, Bigfoot hunters, Lost City of Atlantis, ghost hunters, exorcists. The craziest group as a group are the UFO guys. By far. And it's like, you know, I don't buy the alien abduction thing. I never have. Although I will say this, the thing I find fascinating is if you go back about 100 years, you find people telling very similar stories, but they don't blame UFOs, they blame fairies.
Yeah.
If you ever want to piss off a UFO expert, point that out to them and suggest that it's not aliens that be called fairies, it's fairies that we're not calling aliens. Because why is the one explanation better?
People have been eating mushrooms that grow in cow poop for a long, long time.
Yep.
And weird stuff happens.
Indeed.
Now, I am skeptical of a lot of people's claims. I believe that there are things out there. I believe there's other life and other intelligent life in the universe. Mm-hmm. I believe that malevolent and benevolent spirits exist. What I don't buy is the sheer number that you're seeing. I'm like, is every house in Maine haunted? That doesn't make no sense. Y'all got subdivisions too.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't buy. Like, I live in a 60-year-old house. Does it have the potential to be haunted? No. I know what happened to everyone who's ever lived in this house. None of them died here. And we're not going to talk about that hobo that was bothering me that day while I was working out in the yard.
Well, we don't talk about hobos on this channel. It's a rule.
So while I believe that there are while I believe that there are cryptids, there are absolutely creatures out there that we don't understand. I don't believe that every redneck in the world has seen Bigfoot or a lizard man. Like, no, y'all got into Daddy's moonshine and got into the bad stuff that he couldn't sell.
Yep. Well, I'll say, and I bet you mentioned knowing paranormal investigators in Charlotte, and I'm sure they'll say the same thing. In my experience, I very rarely have people openly lie to me about their house being haunted, but I get a lot of people that either have a few screws that need tightening or overactive imagination.
Oh yeah,
because you get people that will watch The Exorcist one too many times late at night, and are now convinced that Satan's living in their back bedroom.
Yeah. My wife was really into one of the ghost hunter shows. I don't remember which one, but about half the time they would show up at a house, they would set up all their equipment, and the next morning they would explain to the homeowner what it was in the construction of their house that was making that noise and how to nail that thing shut so it wouldn't make that noise anymore. And that you had that cold spot for the same reason, because it was a draft.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I respected those guys because they weren't trying to show every week that they found a ghost.
I'm just surprised the network let it go on. Because the problem I have with ghost shows is the reality is some of those guys are competent investigators, and many of them don't know what they're doing. But you have networks that want, that a lot of networks see, your floorboards are loose is not being good television.
Yeah.
So they'll push them to fake results.
I have a friend who left a show for that reason. They were being encouraged to make better TV than actually give factual reports to the homeowners. And they were like, yeah, no, I'm out.
Good for them. I respect the integrity.
Yeah.
So why my mentor, the late Lou Gentili, wouldn't do. He was offered his own TV show at least once or twice, and he's like, no, and that was why.
Right.
He did a couple of documentaries or episodes, things like that, but it was always, okay, I've got this specific house where I already know crazy things are happening. So come here and I'll show you this. Not let's go looking for somewhere.
Yeah.
But so I'm curious. On a related note, then I'm curious. Have you ever had any paranormal experiences?
I don't have anything that I would say nothing specific. I have worked in a lot of old theaters, and as the lighting guy, I was often there alone after everyone had gone home. And yeah, every once in a while it would feel like I wasn't alone. But I didn't have anything that was specific enough to say, this time I encountered this spirit. It was just a feeling, and knowing the buildings, I knew that they were reported to be haunted by this person. So I've carried on conversations with the theater ghosts, but also I was alone for a long time, so I just needed somebody to talk to. So
That's understandable.
I'm sure they appreciated it.
Yeah, we got along. They didn't mess with my cues, and they didn't mess with the focus. That's all I could ask for.
You had a nice conversation. One-sided, but nice conversation. Yeah. They didn't mess with you. Everybody's happy.
And the longer it stayed one-sided, the happier I was.
Well, you didn't want somebody to answer you one time?
I did not.
Fair enough.
That would have been the last time I worked in that facility.
You do get endless stories of people who've had things like that. And I've even had a couple of cases. I remember living in an apartment with two roommates at one point and getting knocking coming from the wall. And it's like, that wall faced was an outward facing wall with a 2-story drop, and it was a very specific knocking where there wasn't piping, and he starts freaking out and like, this is a Tuesday for me, dude.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, yeah, it's a little freaky to have. It's like you ask a question, all of a sudden you get an answer in an empty theater. Or
yeah, hard pass.
I grew up in a town that's famous. Oh, actually, my friends and I who grew up in the town would joke. It's called New Hope in Pennsylvania, and everything with the foundation in that town is supposed to be haunted. In fairness, it's an old town, 1720s, sometime in the early 1700s. It's one of the oldest inns still in operation in the United States. Is there? It's where they cross, or just down the river from there is where they cross the river for the Battle of Trenton. It has a lot of history to it. There are haunted places there, but there's a little more hype than reality. And there's a theater there that is indeed supposed to be haunted. I've been there for a couple of performances actually, mostly I've been there for a couple of performances of Rocky Horror, of all things. But I guess maybe the Rocky Horror freaked the ghosts out too much, because nothing ever happened while I was there.
Or they were enjoying it.
It could also be true. You never know.
They didn't want to interrupt the performance.
Yeah, it was it was very much a historical theater. It was Angela Lansbury's first performance was on that stage.
Wow.
A bunch of other things like that, yeah. New Hope used to, historically, and then even relatively recently, used to be a big stopping point for people going from Philadelphia to New York.
Oh, okay.
And it was, there's in the Impressionism, the style of art, there's 3 schools of Impressionism, and one of them is the Bucks County School of Impressionism, and New Hope was ground zero of that.
Oh, cool.
So it makes its weird sort of sense. And there's stories, supposedly there was an actor who he was working on a play there with a famous director. I don't remember the director's name, but the director basically told him, get out, you're never going to work in this business again. And he went to New York and set himself on fire. And supposedly the moment that happened, they heard him screaming in the control room of the theater.
Eesh.
Yeah.
Man.
But who knows? It is a weird world. And yeah, again, I agree with you that it's like there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. I never had an issue with that. I do have a bit of an issue with the idea that it comes here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're arguably intelligent life in the universe. We haven't even gotten to Mars or Venus yet, which are the closest planets to us. You think somebody came from light years away just to visit us and kidnap a redneck? No offense.
For real. No. I mean, at least they usually kidnap the methy rednecks so they can do skinny guys. I'm a lot to tractor beam up. You're gonna need a big old John Deere tractor beam to pull my butt up in a spaceship.
Well, I also just think you guys have read Douglas Adams, I assume.
Oh,
Of course.
Douglas's explanation of the teasers. If aliens actually come to Earth and abduct people, that has to be the explanation, in my opinion. For those in the audience who don't know, Douglas Adams wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and proposed that there are aliens that he calls teasers that are basically spoiled rich kids with too much money and too much time on their hands who like to buzz by low technology planets that aren't aware of extraterrestrial life, find some hopeless yokel that no one will believe, land the spacecraft, and then walk back and forth in front of them with an antenna on their head making beep beep noises.
What's funny is that's also and spoiler alert for a 10-year-old book, that's also the premise for Under the Dome by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Is that the dome was a couple of snotty alien teenagers basically setting ants on fire with magnifying glasses, and humans were the ants.
I haven't read that book. I keep meaning to, but it's like, that makes sense.
Yeah, for his later works, it's a pretty good one.
It is. It needed a It needed an edit and about 200 pages cut out of it.
Which is kind of typical for Stephen King.
It seems to be typical of a lot of authors once they sell enough books to think that they don't need editorial anymore. And they do.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are or how good you think you are. You need somebody to say, okay, let's pull it back a little. We've gone on. We're now going to be a 36-hour audiobook. Could you back it up a little bit?
To his credit, King has actually commented on exactly this and said, yeah, supposedly, I don't know if it's still true, but I know at one time, supposedly, he changed editors every few years just because he didn't want one getting too comfortable with him. Although I think there's still the problem of, it's Stephen King. Is an editor really going to tell him, no, you need to cut 200 pages out of your book? There's that intimidation factor. And the reality of the fact the man can